You can find a Pizza Hut, a Subway, and a Dollar General, all usually the same town.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate, oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week, we let there be carnage.
We allowed it.
We allowed it, yeah. We decreed it. I slammed the gavel down and everything. Marvel might be gearing up for their Midnight Suns, if you know what that is.
Chris, I don't, so you'll be telling me along with the audience.
Love it. Jungle Cruise is getting a Disney Plus release alongside this theatrical
I forgot about Jungle Cruise.
Mm-hmm. And more.
Yeah, I was curious if, because I've only been on the Jungle Cruise ride once at Disneyland. And it's quaintly old still. I believe it's been intentional for a while to kind of leave it kind of antiquated. You know, it's kind of an old ride. The animatronics don't have a whole lot of movement, especially compared to the other stuff in the park. So when I heard that this movie was announced, I was like, oh, are they going to refresh the Jungle Cruise ride? I wouldn't mind. I would love to see it. It needs to be updated. Like, you can only hold on to like old traditional stuff in a theme park for so long. Like, I feel like sometimes people forget, like, this is a theme park. This is a place to go to have like fun. You're not going to keep your old traditional like values and rides here for for like a long time.
You need to go to Disney World then, because you would be impressed with how much they're hanging on to those old It's a Small World rides. But I just want to say, of that, Jungle Cruise is one of like my top 3 favorite adventures at a Disney park, because the way they do it is very full of puns and bad jokes that that I'm very fond of.
Yeah, a lot of the ride is the tour guide at the front of the boat.
And I know they've recently updated it. The ending is now actually you get out in a gift shop, because there were issues with the other. They used to like have some sort of like trader thing, like a person was referenced, but there was some sort of issue around that. I was informed about this earlier this week, by the way. But like, I really enjoy, like, it's a simple ride that anyone of like, your grandparents are going to enjoy, kids are going to enjoy. There's nothing really terrifying. And if you get a really, really good host on the boat, right, like it can really take that to the next level. And I think that just showcases like, the tech is old, but the cast members at Disney can really make or break your adventure kind of there. So
I mean, like, theme parks in general are starting to open back up too, because the Jungle Cruise ride reminds me a little bit of the Jurassic Park ride at Universal Studios, which is also I should say it was very, very dated. A lot of the animatronics didn't do their primary motions anymore. There's this big set piece where a car is supposed to fall off a cliff. I've never seen it do that because I got to the ride like way too late in its heyday. But that recently just reopened, and now it's a Jurassic World ride, and the animatronics are supposed to be like top notch and everything. So I have to do everything I can to not watch videos of it online, because there's like, if you've never dipped your toe into the theme park kind of influencer world, like you can virtually visit every theme park on the planet, because they all go to these theme parks. They take videos of every ride. They analyze everything. They even the line that you wait in. So you don't even have to, go all the way to like Tokyo Disney if you want to see the Tron ride, right? You can just go watch a ride through video of it if you want to. But like, I can actually go to this ride eventually, so I have to like not watch the videos people are posting online.
If you want to talk to me about maybe how to use VR and Oculus in the next realm, it's sell me a virtual amusement park ticket. I mean, I would enjoy to do that, like where they like the manufacturer or like the actual park gets to make it rather than just a 360 video kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there is a lot of really cool stuff that you could do with VR and theme parks, but I always kind of, when I had my brief stint with VR headsets in the past, there's always like games and experiences and stuff that people want to sell you, but I would kind of got to the point where I was like, I just kind of want to explore almost like kind of a static environment, kind of like, once you like binge watch like all of the Harry Potter movies, you're just like, Hogwarts Castle is so cool. Like, instead of like waiting around for like a video game to spend tons of money on like, creating the castle and all these games and adventures and characters, like, why can't like somebody just like take like a couple months and just perfectly model the grounds of Hogwarts inside and out, and then I just slap on a VR headset and I can just walk around and explore. There could be some interactive elements like, doors and stuff like that, but like I don't need to fight a troll or anything like that, or like run away from a basilisk. I just want to like walk and just experience the vibe. So I don't know if there's a lot of stuff out there like that.
They have become less gamey, more experiences. Because essentially what you would need is, imagine taking the Skyrim game and removing all the monsters, right? Like pretty much, and just give you that open world to walk around in VR. Sounds kind of like something I like the on rails stuff, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like where I don't have to move myself and I can just rotate and interact with things, whether it be shooting or dodging, something like that. I'm a big on rails fan, but I mean that comes from I'm a favorite of arcade games, and like that's what you do in an arcade is you sit on rails and do that kind of stuff. So I agree. I think it'd be fun to do the theme park stuff like that. Like if they gave you the experience, like you can buy the Jurassic World ride at home to experience it for a little bit, because I've never been to Universal. It's not that I'm against it. I just haven't had a chance to go there. So I look forward to doing it now that everything's back open.
Well, to bring it all back around, they can save a lot of money on rehabbing the Jungle Cruise ride and just slap headsets on everybody. Have the same person up front talking, and then it's like, instead of seeing like the really, really bad animatronic elephants, you'll get like a whole rendered elephant in your head.
It is, but I like the jokes about they know it's a fake elephant, and they sell you on that, because
it's VR jokes now. It's going to be 3-dimensional jokes coming right at you.
I need a live person on the other end guiding this VR thing, giving me different jokes every time around with their personality. But so moving on to that, Mike, you've been watching some stuff. I am moving houses. I'm not going to get to watch a lot of things because my house is essentially in pieces right now. And we've talked ad nauseum about that. So hopefully, in a couple of weeks, I'll be in a new house, be able to catch up on stuff. But it looks like you've been able to kind of dive into a couple of these things that they're popular. It looks like Netflix seems to be your home this week.
Yes, I've decided I need to do a little bit of due diligence for the TV show and at least dip my toe into this new Miller World show, Jupiter's Legacy, right? That's the name of it, right? I keep mentally getting it confused with Jupiter Ascending.
It is not Jupiter Ascending. Jupiter's Legacy is the first one, and Jupiter's Circle was the second comic.
Gotcha. So Jupiter's Legacy, I'm only 2 episodes into it right now. And I don't think I've heard the word Jupiter yet, so I don't know exactly what the hell Jupiter is supposed to mean, or maybe it was an offhanded name mentioned. So I don't know exactly what the title means just yet. But when you first start watching it, you start to get Invincible vibes very, very quickly. And I think that's just because that animated show just came out very recently. And I was actually trying to think of like the timeline. Wouldn't the Invincible comic and the Jupiter's Legacy comic probably be within the same kind of time publication?
No.
I feel like they probably came out close to. I don't know much about them, but they're somewhat modern comics, aren't they?
Invincible was 2000s and like early 2000s, like 2001, 2002. Jupiter's Legacy was 2011, 2012.
Oh, okay. So they're about a decade apart.
Yeah, but 2013 actually, because I remember it was post college for us. I was like, it's a relatively new book series overall compared to Invincible, which I think went for like 15, 20 years. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, when you start dipping your toes in the Jupiter's Legacy, you start to see lots of similarities. The first story that's kind of presented to you is the struggle between like superhero parents and their prodigies that are also born with superpowers, and you get a little bit of that Invincible. Now, I haven't quite made my way through Invincible yet, but I kind of have an idea of where that story is starting to head, and I think Jupiter's Legacy is kind of going in a similar zone, but telling a different story entirely. And it seems interesting because in Jupiter's Legacy, what is it, Josh Duhamel?
Yes. Duhamel. He's Sheldon.
Yeah, so he seems to be kind of like the Omni-Man of that world, the superhero of this world, kind of like the Captain America, the big hero on top, right? That has this big this code that he's trying to uphold. Is kind of what you're presented.
Yeah, with. The only difference is I think between those is that he doesn't do it publicly. Like he's like, we will only help people. Like we were not going to go around the world and be like Captain America or like Superman kind of thing, right? Like. That's very like local. We're going to stop trains, but we're not going to like form a Justice League and present the Justice League to the world kind of thing. Correct?
Well, there is kind of like a Justice League presented in this TV show, so who knows?
Yeah. I'm familiar with the comic book, so
gotcha.
Sure.
So really, they're telling this kind of interesting story. I'm starting to notice where these heroes get their powers. They're not born with them. They get their powers at some point around the time of like the 1930s, like the Depression era. And then we kind of flash forward to present day, which they should theoretically be about like 120 years old, but they are looking maybe like they're more in like their 60s or 70s. So they're kind of starting to tell this story of what happens if an all-powerful superhero kind of starts to outlive their ideals, right? They thought that living by a code of like mercy and crime, and justice and catching the bad guys and not killing them would pay off. But since they have these powers that's kind of limiting their aging, they're kind of starting to see like, oh, this code that I've been upholding really isn't doing a whole lot. Like, the world is still kind of divided. We're just kind of catching bank robbers. There's still all these really big bad actors in the world. So there seems to be this narrative growing just within these first 2 episodes that like maybe we kind of need to change the way we do things. We're these all-powerful gods, and maybe we kind of need to act more like that. So I'm curious to where it's going to go. But if you have been watching Invincible on Amazon Prime, you will get very similar vibes when you start watching this. But since it's live action, the old people makeup is kind of weird, Chris. It's not the best.
That's what I said. When I saw the trailer last time, I'm like, I don't like the way it looks.
Yeah, some of the longer close-up shots of some of these quote-unquote old man beards aren't the best. Some of the under eye makeup looks a little crusty, almost not like a old person. Old people literally aren't crusty. People might use that terminology every once in a while, but they're not literally crusty, and sometimes you get a little bit of that. So that can be a little distracting. And since I'm not too familiar with the characters yet, there's this one character that's kind of bound to a wheelchair, and I can't tell if they're supposed to be old or not, because they either went very, very light on the old people makeup, or he's not supposed to be old at all, but he's kind of talking like he's an old person, because when he communicates with one of the younger heroes, he's not quite saying old whippersnapper, but he's kind of saying things like that. So I'm like, okay, this is really confusing. But some of the special effects are cool and exciting. There's kind of like this big kind of muscly monster type of villain that's in it, and they decided to go kind of more practical suit with it, which is kind of charming because you don't see a whole lot of practical special effects anymore. Usually it probably just would have been a CG person slapped onto like a human face slapped onto it. So there's something intriguing about the story overall, but I'm only 2 episodes in, and they do like flashbacks back to when they got their powers. So I'll be checking back in on Jupiter's Legacy is the long-winded way of saying it. There's something curious there. I don't know if I can overwhelmingly recommend it yet, but there's something building that I want to know more about.
Yeah, one of the things I will tell you, having listened to reviews of the show, again, like I said, because I'm a person of the comic books, I would not read the comic book before you watch the show. A lot of this apparently takes place like as a prequel to the comic book. So like the next season would be where the book kind of takes place.
They're witchering it. They're doing what they do with the
So yeah, if you're interested, you're like, oh, I should read it first. This is a big solid. I don't think you should kind of thing. I think you could go into this. And then the other thing is, why does Mike Miller, why does people tend to adapt his properties? One, I think he writes them for this kind of stuff, but I don't also think he's very precious about it, because I've also been privy to the changes they've made to some of the stuff characters throughout, and again, he did Kingsman, which isn't very much like the book at all. Wanted is a completely different thing. This Kick-Ass is pretty close, but this is something that's again not covered in the book, so I don't think he's too precious of it.
Yeah, I mean, Miller seems like the type of guy that wants to approach a genre and take it from a different angle, right?
Yeah.
Kick-Ass is a very much like a realistic interpretation of what if somebody wanted to become a hero. How would that go in a very realistic world? Jupiter's Legacy seems like an angle of like, oh, what if all of this superhero stuff was kind of affected by modern day?
Yeah, he wrote literally he's the progenitor of the Ultimate comic universe. Like, he wrote the Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four. Like, he is known for, like, I've been following him. I think he also wrote Marvel Civil War. Like, he's known for writing things that translate to movies that people really like. Old Man Logan, which again spawned the movie Logan kind of thing, right? So he's been doing, he always does good stuff, but what he writes is definitely not what they always transfer to screen, and he's fine with that. He's like, That's totally cool. So I'm excited to see more Miller World stuff come to Netflix because I know they're working on stuff.
Yeah.
And then just so you know, the name Jupiter's Legacy is taken from the Roman god Jupiter, which actually has nothing to do with the characters in it. So you probably won't hear the title.
Okay, I was trying to remember the main character's name. It's kind of something
Utopian.
Comparable. Utopian, right?
Yeah.
Because there's Utopian and then an Invincible. It's Omni-Man, so they're all kind of taking these kind of like obscure kind of ways to say that you're all powerful.
Yeah.
So
But,
all right,
but,
I will take my radar down for looking for the word Jupiter.
Yeah. I don't want you to look for it the whole time, and then you be like, they never said Jupiter once. What the hell? So yeah, I think you're good there.
Yeah.
So and then this other one, I actually just saw the trailer for season 2 today for the first time. So is this out already?
Yeah, this is out. Season 2 of Love, Death, and Robots is there. And unfortunately, it's a bit of you blink and you miss it because it had been a while since I had seen the first season. I had to go back and look. First season had 18 shorts. This season has 8 shorts. So you'll just breeze through it so quickly, and then you'll just kind of forget that you ever watched it, which is a little unfortunate. Now, this could be COVID related. Maybe there's a strategy in place where this is technically volume 2 of Love, Death, and Robots, and maybe volume 3 is maybe slated for later this year or maybe early next year or something like that. So maybe it won't be a whole nother year or two until you see more of it. So there could be a strategy there, but it is kind of hard to get lost in it because that's what I really liked about the first volume. I just kind of sat down on my couch and I just like binged watched like the first half of the season, which is like 9 shorts all at once. And then you knew like, oh, later in the week you could watch more of them and you get lost in all these different unique narratives. There's some standouts in this one though that you can look forward to. The second to last one is the one where the character's modeled after Michael B. Jordan. And I'm sure you'll see that face a lot when the season 2 is promoted because that's probably the biggest face that they could connect to all of these shorts. And man, there are some shots here of that short where they have surpassed the uncanny valley. You know, when Michael B. Jordan's character is like in motion and he's doing stuff in this kind of like sci-fi space world, like, yeah, you can tell it's a CG environment and they've done a very, very lifelike impersonation of his face, you know, and all looks very, very good. But then there's like 1 or 3 close-up shots where he's just kind of slumped down on the floor, you know, trying not to die. And it's just like, if I took a screenshot of this, I could fool like anybody that this was a real camera in front of Michael B. Jordan. It's really astonishing what you can do when you're kind of doing an animated short and you only have to concentrate on like 12 minutes. That's it. You don't have to worry about building out a story that's going to last longer than that. You don't have to worry about an asset that you might have to reuse in the third act of the film or anything like that. They're like, your entire job for this month is to concentrate on these like 4 frames of Michael B. Jordan's face, make it look as realistic as possible. And I was honestly really, really astonished. They're really pushing the envelope with a lot of these. And you saw that in the first volume as well. I would say the first volume, you kind of got about half realistic looking stuff and the other half is kind of experimental like animation of like stop motion or kind of interesting goofy quirky looking characters. I would say this is about the similar makeup as well, so you can definitely watch it for the technical achievement. But there was another one that's an interesting story about what if the human race could live forever, what would that mean? That would is that
the very like it looks kind of like I don't know, like a Far Side kind of animated style, like the old people in a pool.
Oh, that's the very first short.
Okay.
That's kind of like the comedic one. No. This one is kind of feels a little bit more Black Mirror, where like there's a detective that has to kill children because they can't have the population increasing if nobody's dying. So that one is very, very dark, interesting story. And then I always look forward to the really funny one, the comical ones. And there's this stop motion one about Santa Claus, but it kind of takes it from the angle of like, why do we have to assume that Santa Claus is human? You know, if we've never seen it, if we've never seen this person before, it could very well take a very different shape. And that one's only like 2 or 3 minutes long, and it's really, really funny. So, like I said, only 8 episodes. You will breeze through these in one setting very, very easily. But it's great to see the gamut that animation takes right now. So, Love, Death, and Robots, Volume 2. Crossing my fingers that before the year's out, maybe we'll get Volume 3.
Yeah. Possibly, maybe not. They tend to do that. Was it when we talk about where they do like we talk about with the Bad Batch where they could have made it 2 seasons across 16 episodes, but they're like, no, we're gonna do one full. Like they usually do eight or so, and like the next one they did with Harley Quinn. they split the first and second season apart up like that, but that's fine. I'm going to jump right in. It's talking about animated shows, Mike, that have been canceled, now being revitalized. Adult Swim came out of nowhere swinging this week, Mike. Swinging fists to people of our age group, of our bracket. If you watch Adult Swim shows, they are giving us new feature-length films for the shows, canceled shows such as Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Metalocalypse, and Venture Brothers. All these shows, again, have been previously canceled by Cartoon Network Adult Swim and have been off the air for several years, I believe. I think Venture Brothers might have been the last one that had a season.
Yeah, it's weird being a Venture Brothers fan because that show has weirdly been like experimentally released. It had a much more traditional kind of airing where, you know, they would order a season, you know, they would animate and create, you know, like 10 or so episodes, and that's a season. The next year you get another one, but then things would happen. You'd have to wait 4 or 5 years for the next season. And then there are some of these interesting seasons where the seasons were only like 2 episodes or 3 episodes long, but they were like feature-length episodes, and then they would get spaced further and further apart. So it's very strange to be a Venture Brothers fan because you really got to keep up on the release wiki, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And as someone, again, one of my favorite television shows ever is Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I think we've talked about that before. We even had Dana Snyder do an intro to the show before, who voices Frylock. I've met all the people. That show went on for 15 years. They even had a movie already, and they changed their name. What was it, every season after like the 7th season, they changed their name. It was like Aqua Teen Hunger Force Forever, you know, Aqua TV Show. Like they always just changed the name for some reason. And I think it was like so they wouldn't have to do syndication or something like that. I think it was something funny. But I think the other one is also, you know, Metalocalypse, you know, a 4 season kind of show with the 1 hour musical special, you know, I think was the last thing they did in 2013. So like this has been sitting there for 8 years, you know.
This is obviously the power and the wealth of HBO Max. I don't know if necessarily there's analytics on their end where they see like, oh, we actually have a large portion of people that are coming to HBO Max and specifically rewatching these 3 things, and that very well could be the case. But also it could be that HBO Max reached out to Adult Swim and they're just like, hey, we need some more content. We need some more stuff. What do you think will drive some more subscribers? Like, I don't know. Let's bring back some of our most beloved animated franchises. And I really like this type of, it's hard to say revival for some of these things because I feel like they haven't been off air for that long. Maybe it's just because I grew up with these things and I feel like they're still around me. But I love it when things come back in just movie form. Like they did this with a lot of Nickelodeon stuff over on Netflix. They did Invader Zim, they did Rocko's Modern Life, and they did Hey Arnold.
Well,
and they all got movies, and it was great because I don't need an entire season of these shows to revisit what I loved about them, right? You know, like I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not gonna like sit down and watch like, you know, 12 new episodes of like Hey Arnold. I just want like one perfect Hey Arnold brand new experience that I can watch. So I think this is a great strategy to take with these 3 properties.
And also, just to correct you, they are not going to HBO Max until after a 90-day exclusive window on physical and digital. So they're not I think it's great they're going to HBO Max and Adult Swim, but like that I guess that's not why they were come to fruition. I guess maybe they were like, we can't make it. Last year they were like, we cannot make any live action shows. What can we do? Oh, let's find these 3 kind of. I would say Venture Brothers is the most detailed animation, but Aqua Teen is one of the least detailed animation shows to ever make in the world. So like let's go revisit some of these and you know see, like they could have the numbers on HBO Max say, oh, people are tuning in to Aqua Teen and Metalocalypse, but like,
well, I'll rephrase what I said to be more accurate. AT&T has the money since AT&T technically owns all of it.
They do. Warner Media is killing it here, but I think this is great. This is for me again, Aqua Teen to be revisited. I'm not hoping for, again, like I was going to say, a Futurama situation where they did 3 movies and then it got a show back again for several years. Like you said, we don't need a show. We don't need, like, everything's doing the revival episodes these days, like the reunions. Like, this is enough of a reunion for Adult Swim for me. 21, 22 years later, whenever this comes out. But I think this is, if you're a fan of these shows or you grew up with them, this is fantastic news for everybody. So yeah, gonna do that. On the flip side of fantastic news, X-Men: The Last Stand is now available on Disney Plus.
Whoa.
And this brings out the worst because I've seen people literally on Twitter fighting and arguing that this is the best X-Men movie of the franchise.
No, yeah. What are you doing, people?
They're literally saying X-Men 3, The Last Stand, is the best one of every X-Men movie ever made.
Wow.
And I'm like, did you see the first two before it? I mean, those alone.
Or I mean, like, technically, Deadpool's kind of technically an X-Men movie if you think about it. I would wager to say Deadpool's a million times better than
I was Deadpool, Logan. I'll even give you Days of Future Past. I mean, I would gladly watch any of those over The Last Stand again.
Logan's great. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Like, you could literally just throw mutants in here for whatever, and they did. They had the guy who pulled the bones out of his arms. That guy, he went on to play Carnage in the Inhumans show, so he's doing really well. He's got a good agent. We should probably
poor guy
talk to him about that. But again, it's nice that all the same actors carried over right from the other two. I think that's a benefit The Last Stand had. But they killed Cyclops off in the first 5 minutes. Like, they just totally wiped him out. Because that actor James Marsden went on to be in the Superman movie, which didn't do. Superman
James Marsden's doing pretty good now. He's in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. He's on a really good Netflix show called Dead to Me.
Mm-hmm. He was in Westworld. He was a great.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. And James Marsden, he's done a lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff. I can't knock him. He was a great Cyclops, right? Like, but yeah, this is just not the best X-Men movie ever. And don't add us if you think it is, because you're wrong. But I also noticed that May 13th, I was told, is X-Men Day.
Okay.
Fox announced this in 2019 that May 13th is officially X-Men Day. So maybe that's when this movie dropped on Disney Plus.
I mean, I guess maybe the only thing that we should think about that day is if they actually want to turn it into something. Maybe May 13th is a day when Feige rolls out of bed and officially announces, the X-Men movie that's coming out, or if after it's announced, maybe it's a day we get the first trailer for X-Men. So maybe we'll be hearing May 13th again in the far future.
Yeah. I mean, my guess, what I would think is we've heard someone Disney Plus launch the X-Men animated movie getting a season revival. As we literally just talked about Adult Swim. Like, wouldn't that be great to watch that next year on X-Men Day? Mm-hmm. But this is a really obscure, this day has nothing to do with X-Men. I just want everyone to be clear. This is not like May the 4th. Like, May the 4th be with you. The May 13th is just really obscure, random day they picked out to do this. So hope you can go watch your X-Men movies. I've not seen how many of the X-Men movies are on Disney Plus lately. I assume the R-rated ones aren't. Those are on Hulu. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can catch most of them on there. And I believe...
relegated to the Legacy
The Legacy
tab.
section, yes. Where your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Humans are. So yeah, but go check that. I believe Dark Phoenix might still be on HBO Max, unless it's finally moved over. I don't know. Nobody cares about that movie. Moving on. Monday morning dropped this trailer, Mike. Dropped this trailer hard on us. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. The upcoming Sony film dropped its first trailer, and I will give them this. You know what they did this time, Mike? They didn't do it the first trailer for Venom.
They showed us the symbiotes.
They actually gave us what the symbiotes look like. Now, again, there are very differing opinions on this movie. Some people love it. Some people don't love it. That's fine. Whatever. But this trailer introduces to Woody Harrelson's Carnage character, which, I believe is everyone's, second favorite symbiote in the world. Mostly because was it the 90s Maximum Carnage? Like, there was a video game and a comic book series.
Nothing describes 90s comic books better than symbiotes.
Yeah, symbiotes and like the video game Maximum Carnage. We got to play Spider-Man and Venom together. It's pretty cool. So we get to see this movie. It opens up on a very, I would say this is a very Andy Serkis note, Mike. The actor known for playing Gollum in Lord of the Rings and having conversations with himself opens up with literally Eddie Brock having breakfast made for him by his Venom symbiote, coming out of him, kind of thing, while he sits there. I don't know what part of the movie this is in, but apparently it was said that he has been with Eddie for about a year and a half. This is like a year and a half since the last movie takes place. That intro sequence I've seen has rubbed people the wrong way. And some people have embraced it being like, okay, at least they're not taking itself too seriously in the opening things here. So
I don't really know exactly what to take away from this trailer. I've been struggling a little bit, right? Because we've been holding a lot of hopes, at least me particularly, that didn't enjoy the first Venom film that much, that, Andy Serkis is going to come in and kind of maybe reinvent the franchise, push it in a different direction, bring some vision to it. And really, after I watched this trailer, I was like, oh yeah, this just seems like more of what we already saw in the first film, which isn't necessarily insane if you're like a producer or somebody over at Sony, because the first Venom movie made a lot of money. So, why mess with something that, filled your wallet? But for me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, this just, I looks like I've watched this movie already, except Woody Harrelson is in it. He's like literally in the exact same kitchen he was in the first one. There was kind of similar antics happening in the first film in that kitchen as well. I just keep thinking, okay, yes, we do get Carnage, but besides Carnage maybe just having a different personality, what's the difference between the goop that Riz Ahmed played in the first film, right? It's just going to be a bunch of goop fighting each other, but now instead of like dark gray goop versus black goop, it's black goop versus red goop. Now I'm sure like a different director like Andy Serkis might be able to bring more clarity to some of the action scenes with symbiotes fighting each other. Maybe the stakes will be different because Carnage is like a psychopath, so maybe he'll be setting up some crazy scenarios that are no-win, and then Venom has to come in and figure all of this stuff out. So the story could go in a different direction, but it does just feel so much like the first movie, which is not really making me super excited.
Well, I think there's two things to take away from that. I think this movie has the difference is the first one was symbiote versus symbiote, like they were all against each other kind of thing. Whereas this one is like it could be a human versus human, like when you say the stakes, right? Like literally. Woody Harrelson is playing Cletus Cassie. He was getting literally lethally injected in the trailer. Like they are killing him, and it looks like maybe the injection mixes with a symbiote that's in him, or possibly. It looks like he can actually like his symbiote can morph his body a little bit more, turn to mist. But the other thing is, with this is Sony is notorious for cutting bad trailers. Like notorious, right? Like you remember Into the Spider-Verse, how bad those were? Like getting into there, like. They're notorious, along with Pixar, for cutting horrible trailers. Now, I could see like the producer be like, okay, cut a trailer that looked like the first one, or I guess the last trailer from the first movie, to make it get those people who spent the money back in before we show them something different. But I do think the Carnage thing, he looks a little more. I like the weaponized version of him. There's a couple of things here. I'm going to go through this Easter egg list here because I think this is where a lot of people who well, I think we are comic book nerds. These are people who get upset about little things way more than we do. There is a Stan Lee Easter egg in here. He's in the news rack whenever he's going into the
I saw that one. He's like on a magazine cover or something like that.
For that, the Daily Bugle design that the detective Mulligan has is from the Sam Raimi era. So like the front cover and the icon are the exact same from like Spider-Man 1 and 2, which is cool. The newspaper also says Avengers whenever he like slams it closed, like someone pulled a frame out where it says literally like an Avengers title like in the back. And then the symbiote Shriek appeared. Did you see that? The girl in the glass tube?
That kind of has the scar across the face.
Yeah, so Shriek is she was part of the Maximum Carnage storyline as well, because did you know like one of Venom's weaknesses from the other movie is sound and fire, right? So a symbiote with actually sound abilities was is interesting. And lastly, the detective, who was the guy from, oh my gosh, Snatch. He's like, you like Dags? That's the detective guy. He, Detective Peter Mulligan in the comic books turns into a character called Toxin, which is like the stupidest thing in the comic books. He's the 1000th progeny of Venom. So like in every like 1000 they become like super strong and like have like special abilities. Like, you're now the 1000th child of Venom. So like Carnage and Venom were both trying to like persuade him to their side because he was going to be so powerful. And then they ended up helping Spider-Man in the end, so it really didn't matter. But like, yeah, I agree. This trailer is not a like, oh my god, I gotta go see a trailer. But it is fun to actually see Carnage. Like, we're in a world where they've done Venom, and now we get to see Carnage actually come to life. And if they can at least do better than the last one, that will still pull it above medium average, right? Like that'll still put it.
Yeah, I'm just curious how creative you can get with Goop. Now, obviously you can. I really just need to pick up like a symbiote comic book, right? You know, I need to pick up like a storyline or a trade that goes through a story where they have a lot of these different symbiote characters in it, and maybe I can kind of figure out, okay, what's the way in here? You know, how do I make this entertaining? How do I make it grounding? How do I, make it visually appealing? But when you say like, oh, there might be Toxin, we're gonna have Carnage, we're gonna have these other symbiote characters in there, and I'm just thinking they're all just gonna be throwing goop at each other, right? I get it that they're all powerful, but like when you're watching like a superhero or a supervillain ensemble on screen, the cool thing about it is they all have different powers, right? When you think of the airport scene, in Civil War, you have all these characters doing all their different quirks and traits and stuff like that. And just like, okay, now put symbiotes, imagine that same scene, but put symbiotes on all of them. Okay, well, now I'm just watching Goof fight each other. So I don't know. We'll see. The end of the...
Well, I'm just going to say, go read Maximum Carnage, which is like a 14-book series from the 2000s or whatever, or 90s anyway, and they actually include the characters Carnage and Shriek and like how they fight each other against the Avengers even. So I think you'll be surprised, because I think what was cool about the end scene with Carnage is like you can see him turning his hands into blades, and I don't think they did that in the last one, did they? Did they just punch each other with tendrils?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
but Carnage is known for being a serial killer, using his things to create things he would kill people with, like as a killer. So I'd pick that up. And if you can find a collected edition of Maximum Carnage, not Ultimate. Maximum Carnage.
I would love to go back and rewatch Venom, but since it's a Sony streaming property, I just checked on Just Watch. It's on like FX Now, DirecTV, and then just something called Subs. I don't even know. That's the Spectrum tile. So it's not even easily available on like a common streaming service. So if I wanted to go back and revisit, were there blade knives or not?
Would that have been that'd be going to Netflix going forward, won't it? Is it? That's because Sony made that deal
theoretically it should. I don't know when that changeover is gonna happen, but yeah, I guess you could wait a little bit while and maybe you'll see it in the trending section on Netflix.
Yeah, you can also head over to ChrisFlix.
Yeah, if you're a subscriber to ChrisFlix.
Yeah, exactly. It'll only be up for a couple more days, Mike, before I move. So you die. So
yes, it's not the most reliable service. There's one point of failure.
Yeah, and usually it's when someone needs it the most. It's usually when it's down. But yes, the Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer. The first one is out. I believe this is coming out. Is it still October?
Who knows anymore, Chris?
Yeah, this movie's been delayed. It was supposed to come out in 2019, September of 2021. All right, I'm gonna put it in the notes here, Mike, so we remember September 24th, 2021. So this movie was supposed to be like 2019, right? And then it's been pushed back several times. So I still of the two Sony properties coming out between this and Morbius, I feel this trailer was better. So
that's an easy fight right there.
Low hanging fruit. Speaking of going back to the movies and watching things in theaters, Mike, Black Widow, the director, I believe maybe even Kevin Feige said that this movie has been sitting fully finished and untouched for over a year now. They haven't gone back and used any time or money to retool it based on anything. So when it releases on July 9th in theaters and on Disney Plus, we will be watching the version we would have watched a year ago.
Just sitting on a hard drive, ready to go. Yeah. I'm really curious if we're going to see that Julie Louis-Dreyfus character in this movie at all. Looking out for that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I want to see what goes on. I want to know who's in the Taskmaster suit, Mike. Like who is Taskmaster and why have they not told us yet?
Yeah, I feel like if Taskmaster isn't like a character that maybe we have seen before in the MCU, it'll be like a casting, like the mask will come off, and I'm not saying it will be Brad Pitt, but it'll be like an actor will be like, oh, we know that person, we've seen that person before.
Yeah, they've done a really good job keeping us in the dark on that for sure. So I'm excited to kind of see that come to fruition. So less than 2 months away, Mike. So that's good to know. Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings, the second movie after Black Widow in the Marvel Universe, will have a 45-day theatrical window before hitting streaming / Disney Plus to watch, which is historically half the date that it would normally be. It would normally be 90 days to that. So
yeah, I mean that is a short window. I mean we're leaving the times where, like, believe it or not, most people don't know what the release window is between a movie and when it comes out, because it's almost like scientifically made long enough to where people just kind of forget, right? You know, it's like you go watch a movie in like the early summer, right? You watch it, you think it's great. Maybe if it's really, really great, you go back and watch it again, and then you forget the movie existed, and then all of a sudden it's for sale again, like later in the year.
Yep.
It's like December's coming around and it's the holidays and you want a gift from somebody. Yeah, go out and get a VHS copy of this movie that I watched during the summer. It was great.
yeah, well, it used to be May to September, May release, and then you get it in like September or something. Because I remember doing that with the Avengers movies, right, when they came out. And you know, I mean, I don't know if you remember back when it was like 4 to 5 months after it left theaters before you'd even get it. I mean, we've come a long way in getting those movies.
It always felt like an eternity. It felt like the whole world itself had moved on to either a different movie, a different property.
The sequel was about to come out.
Yeah, many other things had happened, and now it seems like there's a chance that like the movie could kind of still be in the zeitgeist a little bit by the time you're able to watch it again.
Yeah. So Disney made this deal for all of their movies kind of going forward for the foreseeable future, including that the Ryan Reynolds movie Free Guy. And Cineworld, who's the owner of Regal Cinemas here in the U.S., it was the first to sign up for that. So Regal was also last year the one who like was boycotting Universal because Universal was like, we're not going to give them to you right away, kind of thing. It's going to pay for you. So that's an interesting thing. But the other biggest part of the Shang-Chi thing is this currently looks like it's unlikely to open in China for some reason.
That's strange.
Yeah, so I don't really know why this is, but like everyone's been trying to go after that Chinese market, right? And I'm trying to figure out like it's like the Eternals was the other one because you know this seems to be like you know a movie that kind of made for that audience, but the government approvals for that are you know kind of up in the air, and even quote unquote banned, if you will. But I think it has to do again. From what I remember is that Disney is like, you know, against the censorship concerns of the country over there right now. I believe it might be like the Hong Kong state. I'm not the person to be again talking about this, but like it might be Disney / Hollywood's message against that is causing a rift there to letting them get the movies into.
Yeah, I have no clue. I feel like I doubt it's something content within the film, right? Because there's no way that you start a production like this with something that may be problematic for half of your box office budget, if not more, or returns, if you will. So it's not like, oh, we have something in here we may or may not get away with. Let's just wait and see how China reacts. No, they're going to start from the very beginning of making sure the script is safe for a worldwide release to maximize their return. So yeah, it does make me think that maybe something else is going on there, but I think that's going to be above our pay grade at the current moment.
Yeah, I don't know what there is, but you know, if we start seeing these movies not raking in the high-end dollars globally because of the Chinese market, I'm not going to be surprised come the end of this year. So I'm going to keep an eye on Shang-Chi and the Eternals as we kind of get there for that. Other news in that part of the country, Miss Marvel has been filming over in Thailand for 2 of its 6 episodes, and they were recently directed by Academy Award winner Charmin Obaid Chinoy. I probably butchered that. Who won the Best Documentary Short Subject twice at the Academy Awards recently.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting them to kind of, you know, quote unquote be on location. I thought this kind of might be more of an urban, like urban as in like in the city type of TV show. But yeah, if they're kind of globe trotting, that's kind of interesting. You know, how does a character of her age and skill set make it across the world? You know, if she's a U.S. based character, you know, does she, is this like Godzilla vs. King Kong? Does she get on like an underground train that takes her over there? Is this like a class trip, or like, you know, her parents are on vacation? I mean, I think the other week when we were stipulating, it just seems like at some point in time, Captain Marvel has to be involved in this TV show at one point in time. Maybe they take a ride,
Yeah.
they fly over there. I don't know. Lots of things could happen.
I believe some of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. use Thailand for the Inhumans thing, because they're known to be like in the mountain regions in some of the comic books, like where they hide.
Yeah, could be possible.
So there could be possibly an Inhuman campground. Maybe not the Inhumans like the royal family, but it could be an Inhuman campgrounds kind of thing around the world over there, if they're going that route. But I mean, this was apparently episodes 4 and 5. The other 4 episodes did shoot in Georgia, I believe, Atlanta. So where we saw the leaked costumes from. Yeah, so I mean, that's the series. With this, the series is also now completed filming, which means Disney's not rushing these out by any means, but we could possibly be seeing this by Christmas time. You think late winter or late fall, early winter?
I feel like that's what it was kind of. That's the ballpark that its release is supposed to be at the end of the year.
Yeah. So I mean, Hawkeye, I think just wrapped or is close to wrapping as well. So I believe we're going to forego some other stuff we'll talk about in a minute, and be getting movies or series more frequently as the TV shows or the movies come out too with the TV shows. So Miss Marvel, we'll keep you posted as more comes out. We're stepping into the rumor mill, Mike. Open the door, hold the door open, don't let it hit you on the way out. Rumor is in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, there will be a new incarnation of Johnny Blaze to cameo in the film. And now, mind you, there's no actor attached to this because he can just be literally a flaming skull, right, in a jacket. But this could be because Doctor Strange is going through hellscape dimensions or different realities. But that they are this place that is saying the rumor. I believe it's the hashtag show. They've got a couple big ones before in the past. Say that this will be a new Johnny Blaze for this movie.
Yeah, I feel like any sort of like potential casting or cameo that you might see in the Multiverse of Madness or the next Spider-Man movie, you have to take with this huge, grain of salt and, crack of black pepper that they're dealing with different dimensions and multiverses. So it's a perfect time for cameos that might not exist beyond anything except a cameo, right? I don't know exactly what multiverse travel is going to look like in my head. I don't know how they're going to visualize it, but I always think of kind of like that classic trope of like time traveling where you're kind of going down a wormhole, right? And then like clocks are flying by you, ridiculous things like that. And I think like, what if they're going down like a wormhole and then you just get these cameos like, oh, there's Andrew Garfield, he flew right by us in this little wormhole. Okay, that was the thing that everybody freaked out about for a couple weeks when they talked about him getting a phone call on whether he confirmed being in the movie or not. He was just going through the time stream for like 2 seconds. So we'll wait and see. I don't think that's literally what it's going to look like, but that's kind of how my brain's been working.
Well, yeah, Miss America Chavez, who's making her appearance in this, is she actually punches holes through dimensions in like a star shape. Which is like her ability to travel through dimensions and realities. So maybe they'll literally take that kind of thing literally. And then also, like I said, when I watched Doctor Strange a couple weeks ago, they do say that the sling rings are portals to different dimensions as well. So maybe they're just going to keep it simple, Mike. Just a lot of, looks like you're grinding some metal in the garage, sparks flying everywhere for that. But Johnny Blaze, again, cool to have Ghost Rider. And that ties into our next rumor, the Midnight Suns. That same hashtag show says the Midnight Suns movie is early stages production at Marvel. And the Midnight Suns, there's essentially the how would you say, like the werewolf and vampire hunters, like the supernatural Avengers, if you will. The comics roster, if you look it up, I think the last comics roster they had included Doctor Strange, Moon Knight, Blade, who have all got movies in the works and shows in the works, Ghost Rider, Damon Hellstrom, Hannibal King, and Punisher. So this would be very interesting if they decide to go down this dark Avengers, or not dark Avengers, but Avengers Dark, like Justice League Dark kind of thing. But if they are doing the Justice League Dark at HBO Max, I could totally see Marvel stepping in with a TV show or movie to kind of combat that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I briefly brought this up last week, but it's getting weirder and weirder for a normal human being to exist in the MCU, right? Before they were just like turning on the news one morning and it's just like, oh, some man built a metal suit. Oh, he's a billionaire. Okay, that makes sense. That works. Oh, some dude was unfrozen from the past. Okay, things are getting a little weird. Okay, now there's aliens. There's a big purple monster. My grandma vanished in front of me a couple years ago. Okay, there's vampires now. Shit's getting really, really crazy. So things are getting cranked up a lot lot in this somewhat grounded universe. So I'm curious how Feige is going to walk that line of bringing this supernatural stuff. Because as people have talked about a lot when they compare, the two big comic universes of Marvel versus DC, Marvel mostly has been kind of rooted, in a science-based direction. But of course, any comic book label that exists past a decade will start getting into weird stuff, and you just kind of have to deal with it no matter what. So we'll kind of see how the movie universe does with that after they've been at it for so many years.
And honestly, they've got to, or they're going to start reinventing the same characters we've already seen. Over and over again. I think one of the biggest things, we've talked are they human, vampire virus stuff like that? Are they aliens? Is it other dimensions opening up and letting dark things in? We don't know. There's a lot, like, they are messing with a lot of realities, and we might see the effects of in games, what they did to time travel. What was Mordo say, like, the bill comes due kind of thing, right? So, like, I think we'll start seeing the effects of what their time travel did to everything else very shortly. So, this is fine with me. I don't think we'll hear about it maybe anytime soon. Like I said, literally, Blade was left off the most recent video thing. Doctor Strange, I think, is on everyone's radar because of WandaVision. And Moon Knight, is just now starting to film. So I think a lot of these, even Damon Hellstrom had a TV show on Hulu that was canceled, I think, before it even aired. So I'm not expecting a lot out of this, but, I just want to put it on a rumor radar in case, it comes up in 5 years and we can come back and say, like, haha, told you, sucker. So, but I'd like to see the Punisher really mowing down some supernatural creatures, right? Like,
oh man, blowing some werewolves apart, that'd be awesome.
Did you ever see the Van Helsing movie with Hugh Jackman?
I've seen clips, but I've never sat down and put myself through it.
Well, he had one of the sidekicks. I guess it was like a monk or something, like a friar was making him like machine belt fed crossbows that were like dipped in holy water kind of thing. So like, could you imagine like the Punisher having like blessed bullets and stuff like that while shooting up this kind of stuff? Yeah, it'd get wild. There is also that a Punisher comic book where he was possessed by Doctor Strange as well, so he had like mystic powers as the Punisher too. So it'd be interesting to see. The Secret Invasion show's in the pipeline. It's coming down down the road. They've announced it. They've actually got 2 directors lined up for it. Thomas Bezucha, who's worked on Let Him Go, and Ali Selim, who's worked on The Looming Tower. I'm not going to pretend I know any of these people, but when they hire directors, that means they're serious, right? Like we've announced before that Kyle Bradstreet, who worked on Mr. Robot, is writing and is an executive producer. So it sounds like they're in the writing. They're almost done with the writing phase. They're about ready to start production.
This could also be a good point to bring up, that we kind of have to look at these Marvel TV shows more like movies, like kind of Kevin Feige has told us in the past, even when it comes to production as well. Normally when a TV show gets greenlit, the executive producer, the showrunner, the creator is typically the writer. They're the one that sat down, conceived the idea of the show, wrote out the pilot, sold it to the network. They hired the staff and the crew. They have the budget. They're kind of like the CEO of this little show that they're running. But Marvel's doing things a little bit differently, where they're having, it seems like almost like, I don't want to say like the shows are written by committee, but it seems like the directors are taking more of the realm of these streaming TV shows. So really, I think this is just a good point to bring up, is usually in the TV, we look at the writing team that are kind of molding the show, and we kind of give them the credit or the blame when something happens. But, when we're looking at these Marvel TV shows, we need to think of it more like an actual film. It's the directors that are really going to be helming these different things. But at the end of the day, like all things Marvel, the ladder always goes up to the big executive producers at the top of the house, like Feige. So it's just less traditional is what we kind of need.
Yeah, well, I think the other thing, I think the missing point is here, it's definitely not the directors, because there's like at least 3+ directors per show. There's one head writer rather than a writing team, if you will. Like how TV shows, like you have like one writer per episode, right? Usually. The Marvel, like, again, if you go, like, WandaVision was written by Jack Schaefer. Falcon Winter Soldier was written by Malcolm Spellman, kind of thing, right? Like, they are all, like, Michael Waldron's working on Loki. Like, they have one writer per show rather than one writer per episode. So they're kind of doing that at the end of the day. I was going to tell you, you're a big fan of the Family Stone, right? Like, isn't that?
Yeah.
So Thomas Bezucha wrote and directed that movie. That's why I was going to tell you this.
Oh yeah.
I was saving.
Now it's required watching. Everybody, you got to get out there, watch the Family Stone. It's a nice, sweet, fun holiday movie. You can sit down with your significant other and just watch. Is it Luke? Yeah, Luke. No, Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson. One of the Wilsons is in it. No, Luke. It's Luke Wilson.
Yes.
And then you get to watch Coach.
Craig Nelson.
The Coach. Yeah, Craig. It's just a silly movie. Go watch it.
Yeah. I mean, again, throwing in Sarah Jessica Parker and Rachel McAdams, Mike, you got yourself a deal. But I was saving that for you. I didn't want to put that in there as like what he was known for because I'm like, Mike would just eat this up so bad. But he is the director of that movie, and he's only done like 2 other things since then. So one of them was Let Him Go in 2020. So yeah, I think Secret Invasion is, again, I just watched, I didn't put it on here, I did watch Rogue One this week. I went back in the background, and the actor who plays Krennic, I forget his name, I feel bad, he is the Skrull, right, in the Captain Marvel movies. He's just fantastic. I love the way he chews scenery up as both those characters, right, like, especially as the Skrull. So I'm very, very excited to see him return in Secret Invasion, and of course, finally the return of Samuel L. Jackson to the MCU proper in a leading role. So sign up for that. The animated side of this, Secret Invasion, I believe is not Secret Invasion, of What If, is the next Marvel TV show after Loki, Mike. And EW, Entertainment Weekly, says it will debut in August on Disney+. So we're going to have a summer of Black Widow for July before we finally get this. But I did notice, I mean, I've seen this before several months ago, but they will feature what are called the Guardians of the Multiverse, and I'm using quotes here, that each episode has like a featured character, right? Like there's the Peggy Carter who got the super soldier serum. You know, what if T'Challa became Star-Lord? There's Party Thor we looked at. The Gamora who was like the Thanos version. Apparently these are all become the Guardians of the they group them into the Guardians of the Multiverse, I guess. So this can mean one of 2 things. Either it's going to tie into the MCU at large, or it will not. But you know, I wouldn't think they'd do this show without having something in the MCU, Mike. Like, whether I don't think these characters will come over to the movies, but you know, maybe we see why things don't come over across the multiverse through animated reasons.
I feel like a lot of things Kevin Feige works on, it's always kind of like, well, let's just see how it goes, right? You know, this could easily just live on as like an animated anthology that we see every couple of years, and they take a riff on a MCU character, have some fun stuff with it, you know, and then that's it. But maybe something interesting could come out of this, because if we're opening up, you know, multiverses and multi-dimensions, you know, maybe this world where Peggy Carter does become, you know, a super soldier. You know, maybe she does pop up in the Doctor Strange movie. Like, we don't know. I just hope it would be kind of cool, you know, if Jeffrey Wright, you know, is the Watcher. I could see that being something that carries over, right? You know, the Watcher is this omnipresent being that can watch over these different multiverses. So, you know, if the Watcher does pop up in like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 or something like that, you know, maybe it's voiced by Jeffrey Wright. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I agree. I think that would be. I just don't think. Like, we're not going to see, I don't think they're going to get, Haley Atwell coming in as super soldier-powered Agent Carter into the movies, right? Like, this will probably stay within the in the animated realm, but, like, again, Jeffrey Wright could voice a CG Watcher, because they've made the Watchers before in, was it Guardians 2? I think Stan Lee was talking to them on a planet, so. Yeah, if you see any of the Guardians of the Multiverse merchandise out there, you know what's coming up on the What If show. Jungle Cruise, where they show us the backside of water, Mike, is opening in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access on July 30th now. This movie was also originally supposed to be open in 2019, has been pushed back several times. They're going to go ahead and give it to us in theaters and Premier Access. This tells me 2 things. One, they're very excited about this movie, right? With The Rock and Emily Blunt being in it. But at the same time, they're not fully committed to movie theaters being open by July 30th yet. Yeah, so this is like kind of an interesting equation where, you know, historically I haven't been a huge enthusiast with these with these live action Disney movies. But at the same time, this isn't based off of an animated film. This is based on a ride. So this is more in line of like Pirates of the Caribbean, if you will. I do not envision myself paying $30 to watch this at home. That's just a little much. So I think I'd rather spend that money and go to the movie theaters with my wife, and then with that, with the movie tickets, we can get some popcorn and stuff like that. At least we'll be able to get out of our house since we're both fully vaccinated. So the equation depends on the situation that you're in, but I just can't. I can't drop $30 just to watch this on my couch.
Well, here's the thing: is this a movie you would normally see?
I don't know. That's the thing.
I think that's the bigger part of the equation. I think at the end of the day, is this something you would normally watch?
I mean, when I watch the trailer, it just seems like this crazy, like kind of overly CG polished environments with people dropped in them, right? Like there's sections where they show them like in the jungle, and it doesn't look like the jungle. Like I've never been to the jungle, but I know the jungle does not look like this, So there's kind of like this weird like polish over all of it, and The Rock's charming, so who knows? But I could easily see the reviews coming out for this movie going like, yeah, this wasn't very good, but I'm always wrong, and people are always wrong, so who knows? This could spring the next franchise of ride movies again.
Yeah, it's funny because they actually filmed a lot of this on location. So a lot of it is in like Asia, Africa, and South America rivers. So it's funny that you mentioned maybe they've added a polish to the live action stuff to make it look fake. Then like maybe like supplement the backgrounds a little bit. Because I remember when they did when it was supposed to come out in October of 2019, I remember seeing that background. But I think The Rock, again, when has he not made a movie that's brought in a bunch of money? I think it'll be good. I'm excited to see this because, again, I like the Jungle Cruise ride. We are a Disney family here, more than just Marvel and Star Wars. My wife is very much in the Disney realm of things. So I could see myself going to the theaters, but I could also see her saying, I do not want to go to the theaters. Let's buy this and watch it at home, because it will get played multiple times in my house, over and over again, much like probably people who have kids would do. My wife will put it on during the day because, again, as a teacher, she gets this summers off, right? So she'll be home and she can watch it multiple times.
Well, I mean, we got like 10 weeks, so a lot can happen and change in 10 weeks. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I could also see like this being something that we buy and watch at home because of, again, something we rewatch. I don't think this is something you would rewatch. Is my thing, like, right? Like, this doesn't seem like you're not like, I need to watch my Jungle Cruise a second time, even if it's just middle of the road kind of thing. But also, again, like I've talked about in my new house, I'm building a theater, so I will have my own theater to watch it on. So
yeah, there you go.
I'll make my own popcorn, damn it. Lastly is a trailer for The Wish Dragon coming to Netflix, I believe. Right? Is that right? Did I get that streaming service right?
Yeah, it's Netflix. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Did you watch this yet?
I am watching it on silent right now. I have no idea what this is.
Perfect. So this is essentially Aladdin, but for Asian markets. So a character named Din is trying to reconnect with his best friend, which is a little different from Aladdin, but he meets a wish-granting dragon in a teapot that essentially grants him the ability to become cool and hip and hang out with his friend as a I guess a rich person, if you will, the hoity-toity in modern times, which is essentially what Aladdin did, right? Like, it's the same basic premise, but updated to be, dragons, because animated dragons are everything this year, with Raya and Shang-Chi, and now this. So, I know you're watching it on silent there, Mike, but do you see the similarities? Like,
it doesn't. I see the similarities narratively, but like, for a feature film, this doesn't look particularly like high budget. I honestly, I would believe you if at the end of the credits this said like new series coming to Netflix, because everything does have that very cartoony look, right? Which is totally fine. Like every animated feature studio does that, but there's like no textures. Everything's like flat, like nothing's really rendered to a high degree. So this just kind of seems like a lot of kind of what we've seen from Netflix in the past of like what we just want to make a bunch of stuff cheap. We're just trying to get subscribers, like comparing this to like Mitchell's versus the Machines, which just is oozing in character.
So
this just kind of seems like they dropped in some.
Who made
some
Mitchell's? Who made Mitchell's versus Machines? You know?
That's the Russo brothers.
Well, but no, which company? Which company? No, it wasn't the Russo brothers. It's Lord Miller.
Sony Animation.
Sony Animation made this.
Oh, well.
Same company.
Obviously got their... I don't want to be rude, but I think there's a different quality of team that was assigned to this movie.
It feels like, again, I don't know what the term... Is this a reaction to Raya and The Last Dragon, right? Kind of thing? Like, is it like a catch-up kind of thing? But also, is it... It feels like me, again, nothing against Big Hero 6, but like the animation style feels like Big Hero 6. Like the color palettes and everything and the models.
I mean, to me, it just felt like this was a statistical move, right? I feel like nothing in animation can really be a reaction almost, unless like this stuff was like planned years ago, because it takes so long to make this. This just seems like a CEO at Netflix is just like, okay, we want to increase subscriptions over in our Eastern markets. Let's make a movie about this narrative, so it'll resonate over there. Before
you jump to conclusion, if you jump to the end, it is also financed by Sparkle Roll Media and Tencent Pictures, which are like huge, again, Asian market stock. Like Tencent owns everything, right? Like they have a stock in Sony, they have stock in Fortnite and Epic and everything. So I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna lean the way like this feels like it was kind of rushed by those, because it is Tencent rather than Sony Animation. But like if you go and listen to it afterwards, you're gonna be like, this is Aladdin. Like this dragon is essentially the genie, right? Like he's gonna grant wishes.
Also, at the same time, this movie obviously is not for us. This is for parents to put down their kids in front of Netflix. The Netflix kids catalog just got a little bit bigger. You don't have to watch Cocomelon today. Please watch something different. That's not Cocomelon. I can't stand that anymore. Watch this dragon movie.
Well, it's also interesting that the Netflix the YouTube channel has turned off comments on this trailer already. Which they don't normally turn off comments on trailers. Yeah. So something has gone sideways here, Mike.
Usually you could say like, oh, they're just ripping off Disney's like Aladdin, but it's just like you kind of have to do your research there before you start accusing people of ripping people off, because The Lion King is basically a ripoff of Kimba, which was a manga made over in Japan. So it's just kind of like there's a chance that this whole like kind of genie Aladdin story could just be in a very old folklore. I
don't think it's ripping off Aladdin. I think it's the same plot points. You'll notice it. I think if anything, it's ripping off Raya and the Last Dragon. It's got a bright pink dragon compared to the bright teal one. But I think you guys watch it, you'll kind of see what that is. But knowing that the Sony Animation on Netflix has hit pretty hard lately, right? Like knocked it out of the park with Mitchell vs. Machines. This is just an interesting yin to that yang, if you will, along the way. So here's that. All right, Mike, that is the show. That is the episode this week. We are good to go. If people want to know what you're up to, what they're doing, where can they find you at?
Well, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, or Twitter, Valdan, Valdan. If people want to know more about the show, we'll eventually have a review coming up sometime, right? We've got to have movies eventually.
I think Loki's the next thing dropping, really.
Yeah, we usually talk about it during the shows. But yeah, if we get something else coming, where can they find this at? They need to be followers, right? Or they're not going to get these news.
Yeah, the home for Superhero Slate has always been and will always be superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find all the avenues we host our show and to get our excellent show notes. So if you want to see that first trailer for Venom, if you want to see the trailer for that Wish Dragon thing we were just talking about, or if you just want like a nice little list of everything that happened this week, head on over to superheroslate.com. You could find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts. Please like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. Please reach out. We love hearing from you. What did you think about the show? Are you looking forward to Venom? Do you think it just looks just like the first movie, or do you think it looks a little bit original? Let us know. We love our super fans. If you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week, folks. So stay tuned.
See you next week.
All right, bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.